YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and let's get into some more Total War Rome 2 online battles. Today I've got Carthage versus Macedon at the Battle of Nemetocena? Netamocena? Yeah, however you say that. It's a boring, grassy puke land, unfortunately. I really don't like these maps, but they put them into the quick battles, so that's what we end up fighting on. I mean, I don't really like horridly unbalanced maps, but maps with a little terrain are always nice, other than drastically flat. In any case, let me introduce you to my Carthaginian army. I'll do it from out here real quick. I've got 4 mercenary Balearic slingers on the front. I've got 4 Libyan infantry. I've got 4 mercenary Iberian swordsmen, 2 on each flank, guarded by a late Libyan hoplite. That's to keep them from getting cav charged, though my late Libyan hoplite is spread thin and probably vulnerable. I've got 2 noble cav on this flank and 2 Carthaginian cav on this flank. Have a specialty war elephant unit right here. My opponent is playing as Macedon, and let's show you his army. Unconventional Macedon army. He's got 2 Greek scorpions, backed up by 2 mercenary Rhodian slingers and 2 mercenary Cretan archers. He's got 2 Aspis companion cav over there, very expensive melee cav. Not good on the charge, but just brutal in extended melee. And then he's got some citizen cav here. 1 royal peltist and 6 thorax swords, so an all-sword Macedon army. This is actually something that Macedon can do, though, that some of the other Alexander or Greek factions can't. The ability to, well, I mean, I say Alexander factions, I say Greek factions. Sparta doesn't have swords. Athens doesn't have swords. Yeah, I don't think Epirus has swords either. They don't. So Macedon is different in that respect, and Macedon's actually a pretty formidable faction in my opinion. They have access to the Thessalian cav and Sarissa cav, both of which are very helpful units. I really do think Macedon's also quite a viable faction, much the same way that Carthage has become better. So my opponent was firing his scorpions at my elephants, and I just didn't see this going on. This is a huge mistake on my part to be taking all this HP damage to my elephants, especially considering that my opponent has Rhodian slingers and Cretan archers also to help finish the job. So yeah, my elephants are going to really pay for this here due to my neglect. You can see one of them dies, another one actually dies in a minute. But while his scorpions are doing that, I'm killing them from long range with my 4 mercenary Balearic slingers. My opponent tries to chase them off with this citizen cav, fair, but I'm able to pull them back way before he can get there, and then I'm just going to reform and bring them under fire. But this does buy him a little more time to keep firing his scorpions. I'm not sure that I made the right move here. I'm not sure why I'm being standoffish, that is to say. I honestly should have just charged my infantry. I would have caught his scorpions. His own thorax swords have no prayer of beating my Libyans, and it would be a pretty tough fight for them even against my mercenary Iberians, to be honest, because of their low attack. Formation attack would be the only thing that would save these guys in the end for my Iberian mercenaries. His skirmishers are good, but beatable with what I have. Cretan archers are really a dangerous unit. I mean, look at their attack there. 32 attack at 150, and if you put them on heavy shot, they have 37 missile damage. It's actually quite brutal. They have pretty good shield strength, too, which is what most archers need, but the shield is on their back, and they can't fire their bow with it out. So even though they have a shield, it doesn't do them any good unless you're shooting into the back of them. I don't know about you, but I usually keep my archers facing away from the enemy. In any case, I should have rushed. I didn't. That's why I took some elephant casualties. At this point, I decide I'm going to go ahead and start pushing attack. I started a way too hasty cav engagement. Sorry I didn't show you the start of this, but I'll go ahead and kind of explain what happened. I tried getting a charge on both of his Aspis cav with my shot cav and then backing them up with the Carthaginian cav. So even though the Aspis cav got charged and is surrounded, it's going to take me a long time to kill it, which I will kill it. So he reinforces with the thorax sword here. And that's going to mean this fight's going to slowly grind out of my favor, whereas this fight should end up in my favor. But again, these Aspis cav have huge health and armor, so they're good. My opponent chasing my skirmishers back again. He's been actually concentrating his fire on one of my Libyan infantry, trying to destroy my infantry, which is probably smart for him. I think that my infantry poses a bigger threat to him than my skirmishers. So he wants to finish my infantry, and a Libyan infantry has solid shield strength and pretty good health. And you can see the kind of damage they're taking from these Cretan archers. is pretty substantial, to be honest. The Rhodian slingers are firing as well, but the Cretan archers are getting a fair bit of damage. Archers are not completely worthless in this game. I just think that most people see them getting beat by slingers and they decide they're worthless. I disagree. It may be kind of hard to find their purpose sometimes in this game, but archers, especially the Cretan archer, are fairly capable. It's just you need to use them for the right thing. When you see people bringing them and then pitting them against cheap slingers, that's not the right use for Cretan archers. They're too expensive for that kind of thing. I was charging his Royal Peltist. Unfortunately, I get countercharged, which is bad. His guys aren't the best kind of formation, but still, those Royal Peltists are very strong. I don't expect to win that engagement if it prolongs. Here I'm going to chase back some of his skirmishers. I want to keep them from shooting at me. And then I accidentally get caught here on a bad charge, and then I'm working on the flank. Over here, check it out, engage this Thorax Swordsman with my mercenary Iberians. Iberians have decent weapon damage and decent attack, as opposed to the sturdier morale and defense of the Thorax Swords. Non-formation attack versus formation. So my guys did very well off the charge, but the fight starts to even out over time. And then right here, you can see my my 2 units, or my late Libyans, this mercenary swordsman working over that Thorax Sword. My Libyan infantry holding quite well against these Royal Peltists, who just got showered with javelins and are now going to get outflanked by my other unit. So that was pretty brutal, and those Royal Peltists would have won this fight, but now definitely not going to win that fight. My elephants came in here and trampled their first unit. Over here, I'm just chasing his skirmishers to try and keep them from shooting my elephants, and it's working for now. So my elephants coming back over in here to make their presence known. At this point, I just want to get rid of the enemy infantry. I figure that if I can get rid of it, I should be able to handle any Aspis Cav he has left over. And then over here, I did kill his Aspis Cav, and you can just see the random engagements. Here's my elephants smashing into the back of that Royal Peltist to finish it off. So even though it did get surrounded, it was still trying to hold out, but ended up being cost ineffective just because of the fact that it got outflanked. And with the loss of that Royal Peltist, it causes these Thorax swords to start wavering. And pretty much at this point, my opponent's in trouble. His skirmishers are open to my cav, and over here my elephants are about to take out this Thorax sword. That Aspis companion cav held on forever, even in a bad situation, but ended up not being worthwhile. I know that I missed a few different key moments of that battle, so I apologize for that. I mean, it kind of makes it look like my opponent won there because he got more kills than me, but he also deployed quite a few less men than I did, so losing... losing 700 and some odd men in a 1,400 army was more damaging than me. Well, actually, I guess it was pretty equivalent, all things considered. It's just that, yeah, all he had left at that point were his skirmishers, so wasn't going to do him a whole lot of good. Anyway, interesting to see what happened there. You can see my cav were just grinding it out with Aspis, so they didn't get a whole lot of kills. Elephants didn't get a lot of kills, really. They did kill quite a few Royal Peltists, so that helped. Skirmishers, not a particularly large amount of kills. I just had more men than he did. That's really what it equated to here. None of my units were particularly effective, but I just had more men and more tools and was able to get the job done in the end. So and most of it's because of this right here, because of his Scorpions. So it looks like we have close to the same number of units, but there's way fewer men in these Scorpion units, so that makes a big difference. Plus, he spent a lot of money on those Aspis Cav. Anyway, HeirofCarthage signing off for now. Hope you enjoyed it.